Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Best Damn Sports Show in Franklin County for Wednesday, December 30th, 2020. I am the host, the Nighthawk, with the studio engineer, Mr. Alan Richie Cunningham, and on the panel, the usual cast of characters. On my left, Mr. Super Dave Handy, and back from a one-week layoff, Mr. Duke Forrest to my right. And Duke, I just want to do some weather.
Thanks, Devin. Sorry to hurt our demographics so much by my return tonight.
Yeah, we're old. I got to admit, I look at this wide screenshot and it could be held at the senior center.
Of course, which I live almost next to.
Yeah. Hey, Alan, is David cut off a little too much, or is that just my monitor?
Just the hair.
Go the other, Dave, go the other way. There you go.
There, how's that?
Okay, that's better. Okay, Duke, Lake Champlain water level 95.11 inches. Lake water temp 39 degrees. But my real question to you is the non-winter we've had up to this point.
Funny, Hawk, what have I got on one of my notebooks? Open winter. We've talked open winter before. That sure
And
looks
I
like
looked
we're
at the
looking at
2-week extended forecast. I know you hate extended forecasts.
No, there were something.
But the temps, for the most part, are in the mid-30s and very, very little snow forecasted.
Yeah.
Now, if you recall, a week and a half ago, the town of Springfield had 41 inches of snow.
Yeah, bunch of.
And we might have had, what, 1 inch of
I
snow
measured
that day?
a half inch, and Burlington had 3.1.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think we're talking open winter. I went out to Killcare yesterday, didn't quite make it today. And again, it's not like I've gone out there probably every year. I've been up here about 45 years right after Christmas, but probably most of the time, open water. So such a weird sight. I mean, that's I think using the word rare is very fair. Open water at Killcare, looking out on the broad lake. I mean, after Christmas, that's really unusual.
Now, when I said to you the lake level's at 95.11 inches,
How about feet? How about feet?
feet, I'm sorry, I would
Not
be in
that,
trouble.
I'm concerned how low it is, but
Right.
let's not get it that low.
When I throw out numbers, I always like to say compared to what? What is the average level for the state?
I meant to check that. I would say that's got to be a good 2 feet below average, I would say.
So with that being said, and you saying open water, because obviously the lower the water, the quicker the ice will form. I did see a video, a guy walking on the lake. I was on the news.
And falling through?
New York State, yeah. Walking and just didn't panic, got himself up and crawled off the ice, got to the dock, and just casually walked back.
There has been ice out there at times. There were a few days there was some ice, certainly St. Albans Bay. In fact, a couple days it was clear ice. Had I trusted it more, which of course I didn't, it would have been some great skating. But then the warmer weather came in. Of course, a record warm Christmas day in Burlington. You caught 65.
Yeah.
Warmest Christmas day on record.
Are you telling me you still ice skate on the lake?
No, absolutely.
Oh, wow.
Why would I? Hey, what do you think I grew up doing? Pond skating in Hingham, the Hingham Skating Club, which might still be with us. And that flashes, I've probably mentioned Deborah Zarnacki before, one of my later high school classmates with her blue parka. Now I can flash back to her at age probably 8, 9, 10 very easily.
Okay.
But yeah, I grew up, of course, not in Hingham Harbor. You know, I mean, skating on saltwater ice is worthless, but yeah, I love outdoor skating.
So as I walked in the studio here, I heard David mention, which was on my notes, one of my top 5 all-time leading ladies. If I could go on a date with someone, she's definitely on my top 5 list. The ever so lovely Miss Dawn Wells, who played Mary Ann on Gilligan's Island, passed away today at age 82.
Wow.
They say COVID-related illness. But a lot of times they stick that label on you to get more money. But anyways, what a cute, beautiful girl. And off camera, I saw her in a numerous amount of interviews. Just a really sweet gal.
Yeah, I was just reading in the New York Post just before we got here, and Tina Louise, the last remaining cast member of Gilligan's Island, said that she was just as nice off the screen as she was on what she was not acting to put on that personality. That was her natural personality.
How long was this show on the air? Like 4 or 5 years? or
Yeah,
something?
and then there was a bunch of about every 5 years or 10 years they'd
TV
come out
movie.
with
All right.
a revival.
I remember there was a TV movie, the Harlem Globetrotters on Gilligan's Island.
Yeah, they did
really?
quite a few.
Now, the funny thing is, when the show came, done by producer Sherwood Schwartz, that also did the Brady Bunch. But of course, Ginger was the bomb, and she always wore that sultry dress. Well, everybody within a few weeks noticed Dawn Wells, Mary Ann, and that's who the majority of American males fell in love with. Now, Duke, I'm going to ask you a question. I'm sure you watched Gilligan's Island.
Yeah, I have
All
a
right.
decent memory, but
Dave,
don't
I'll
ask
give
me
you the
names or anything.
second shot. Mary Ann, what was her last name?
I'm sorry, Marianne, who died today?
Yeah, her TV last name. Mary Ann
I don't know. Mobley.
Not going to come up with that.
Summers.
Marion
No, yeah,
Summers.
never would have come
yeah,
up with that.
Yeah. So, okay. So I'm just getting a lot of tidbits. I'm a very lonely person. I don't see.
Well, I
anybody
think
else.
the Ginger character was really kind of almost a ripoff of Marilyn Monroe
Oh, yeah.
with a breathy voice
Yeah.
and all
I'm
the.
trying to remember her last name. Was it Ginger Rogers?
I don't
Yeah.
know.
I think I hear the phone ring.
We
I always hate to get into another topic here, but I'm going to. So today, David, it was revealed in the messenger that you will have an next door neighbor.
Right.
We talked about it off record. So Subaru is coming in at the other half of the drive-in. Of course, you bought the right side of the drive-in a few years back. So my question to you is, does that make your dealership more lively in the sense where if a person is going out car shopping, they've got Handy's here, Subaru there?
I think in the old days it was sort of like the old McDonald's Burger King thing, and everybody want to. If you were fast food, you want to be next to McDonald's, but I think in today's world,
I mean, so much has gone online, for one thing.
yes,
David, let me interrupt you. About a month ago, you told Duke and I, back in the day, before internet and all that, and correct me with the numbers, if a person's looking to buy a vehicle, they would go to like 5.5.
it was
different
6.1.
Is
6.1.
that right? Dealerships, they
Right.
go to, really?
Now tell what today how many visits.
It's just barely over 1.
Wow.
So what's changed so much is people do all their homework on the internet and the third-party sites and all that, and so they decide pretty much what they want. Then they send out an email, and if you've got it, and the pricing's pretty easy today. There's not as much margin in the cars as there used to be, so all the prices are a lot closer. So if you're decent, excuse me, and you're and you do a good job, and that's what's called your business development center that handles the internet portion of it, and you do a decent job with it. The customer says okay when the car comes in, or I'll take it, or because like what we do is we put pictures on the internet of each car after it's come in, not generic. People like to see the real actual picture. And the other thing,
don't you have an employee that's part of
we got a couple of guys that handle that.
part of their responsibility is take
Yes.
really good pictures?
Now these are all jobs that weren't around
Right.
20 years ago.
Yeah.
And the other thing that's changed so much is in the old days, we would, negotiate on a price, and it was a lot of back and forth. But today, the way the internet is set up, you price it right where it ought to be.
Well, I can attest. When I bought a car from you a few years ago, when I totaled my car on the interstate, not my fault, but it was totaled. And when I said, David, here's what I need, and I didn't even do any shopping. I'm lazy. I said, I need a SUV, something that I can get my pull cart, my golf clubs in there easily. And when I go to the lake, get my chairs and coolers, blah, blah, blah. So then you called me and said, Hawk, I got a deal for you. And I said, oh, Dave, it's tax season. I think I'll wait till I'm after tax season back from vacation. Then I called you back and I said, David, I'll come over and take a look. So I went to look at it, looked all right, to the test drive, and this part I remember. I said, David, do you want to come with me? And he got, yeah, sure, I'm not doing nothing. So we drove around, didn't have one question about the car, talked sports for about a half hour. So get back to the place. So I said, David, I'll take it. So getting back to the original point about flexibility of pricing. So I had the price tag. So I said, David, what are you going to do for me for a Nighthawk special? And you said, no, Hawk, that's it. That's the price. It's not changing. And I go, well, we've been doing the show for some, that's the price.
Well, what we have, believe it or not, and we aren't the only guys, we have software that tells us what everything is being sold for. New cars, used cars, whatever the price is. And we usually try to be right there or just a little bit below it. So if there's 28 GMC Sierras with us that sell for $50,000 and their price all at $46,388, we might be $46,385 or something.
Okay.
And because when I used to do it a million years ago, especially on used cars, you would take the new car, you would take the NADA book, and you would price it there, or maybe if it was a really nice one, a little higher. Mm-hmm. And then the guy would be up, and you'd argue for 3 hours, and he'd wheedle me down a couple of $1,000. But they're really, and you know what, people are used to that. They buy so much stuff online now. This new generation, they don't really want to negotiate that much anyway. And it's not just us. I mean, I went and bought a new mattress, a big fancy one, and the guy says, "Oh, there's the price. That's it."
How much?
Did you
out of
go to the
curiosity?
store?
No, I went to a Total Home.
Okay,
But
you did have to jump on it, obviously, for the comfort.
I tried out, but I said, "Hey, any deal on these?" He goes, "No, that's it. There's the price."
Really?
And so we're getting a little more used to that because there's so much competition out there in things. It's like TVs. When Walmart and Home Depot and everybody has the same thing all priced out, you can't price that higher. You've got to be right with the same price that everybody else is.
My son-in-law, I stopped by yesterday, bought from Costco a 55-inch TV for $289.
55-inch TV for
Are you
$200.
serious?
$289. Now
$3?
listen to this. They deliver up here, free delivery once a week.
This is from
Costco.
Costco.
There was something wrong with the truck. Couldn't make it that Wednesday. So they make it the following Wednesday, and
Cut the price?
they cut the price $100
You're
because,
kidding me.
yeah, they didn't deliver on it. So ended up with a 55-incher
189.
for $189.
55-inch TV.
And I'll tell you right now, if I went out with you and Carrie and my wife, we'd easily spend $189.
No, that's not nothing.
That's crazy, isn't
That
it?
is. It's amazing.
So, well, I might as well talk sports.
Can I just know we're on weather? Just a quick weather
Oh,
note.
sure.
With all the talk about drought and dry conditions and stuff, Burlington today is about 5.5 inches below average, and looks like probably maybe a little more precip. But anyway, Burlington's doing better than a number of other places, but about 5 and. Burlington gets about 37 inches of precip a year. Precip, of course, being a combination of rain and melted snow.
Mm-hmm.
I think I mentioned before, that's about exactly the same as Seattle. Not surprising, wouldn't you have guessed Seattle would have been way more than, I think they just get a lot of days of like misty, light rain and stuff.
I went to Seattle about 20 years ago. We had a family reunion.
Hawk's been there. I've been there a long
And-
time ago.
It was dry. Everything was burnt. The grass was all yellow.
Well, I think that was a bit unusual.
But it's overcast. That's the
Right.
thing. It's just very
I think a lot of light. I think a lot of
I'll bet
maybe
you
light
too,
rain.
maybe just a little more inland or a little bit here or there. I bet you, because they have a rainforest right across.
No, Olympia, what national park? Not
so
far
they
away.
get a lot of, I think I think it's kind of like us here. I bet you that, well, when you're driving home from Burlington and it's not doing anything, and then all of a sudden you get to the Georgia exit
Seems
and
like
it starts
Georgia.
snowing.
Yeah.
That's the way the weather is.
David, I used to work South Burlington for 15 years.
Yeah, Hawks
And
dealt with this forever.
That Georgia-Milton line, it was like Tale of Two Cities, or it was unbelievable, the difference.
Hey, I notice, like, if I go to Yoga and I'm coming home, the temperature goes down at least 2 or 3 degrees at the Georgia exit. Just going up
Really?
there, there's just something. There's a microclimate or something. And I remember one time at the Rotary, we had the head of the Vermont Transportation, and he said that they've got so many of those little areas where for 2 or 3 miles the weather changes completely. And so it's just a little tidbit.
So, David, I'm going to start the show with an apology. If you remember last week, I started the show by saying I've been following sports full-time since the age of 8, and I verbally lambasted the New York Jets for winning the game and losing the first overall pick. I'm apologizing to the Jets
Yeah, I told you were
for
too
the
hard on them.
moxie, the grit they had to go out and beat Cleveland last week, albeit they were missing receivers. But good for the Jets. Oh,
Their
we have a
defense was
call.
good.
Good evening. You're the first caller tonight on the Best Damn Sports Show in Franklin County. Hello.
Yes, good evening. Happy New Year.
Hi, Len.
Happy New Year to you, too.
Yes, the Giants could draft anywhere from number 3 to number 25.
Really? That could be number
That's
3?
how odd their season is.
Well,
if they were to win the division and win a couple playoff games, they'd be somewhere around the 25th pick in the draft. And if everything broke right for us Sunday, 4 or 5 teams winning and us losing, we could draft as high as number 3.
Number
Very
3?
unlikely it would work out, but it would probably
Wow.
more likely be around number 10.
That's unreal.
I don't know. I don't see us beating Dallas. I hope I'm wrong, but it would be hard for me to bet on the Giants.
The Cowboys have a 3-game win streak right now, and the Cowboys
They're playing pretty well.
I'm shocked.
Yeah.
The Cowboys are only giving 2 points at this game.
Yeah.
We're playing at the Meadowlands for whatever that's worth.
Worth
You know,
nothing.
we have 0 fans. The Giants right now, Leonard, if the season ended tonight, we're picking 8th overall. If we beat the Cowboys, Eagles beat the Redskins, we would drop down to the 19th position in the draft, regardless if we win or lose the first playoff game. That's how low you drop because you're a playoff team.
Oh, I know. And you could go as low as 25 if you won a couple playoffs.
Yeah. Well, obviously you'd go 32 if you won the Super Bowl.
Right.
Yeah.
Can you imagine that?
So
Can you imagine if an NFC East team won the Super Bowl?
I don't think it's going to happen.
yeah.
No, I don't. I don't.
Yeah.
Hey, you never know.
don't.
But if the Giants win with a 6-10 record, the all-time worst record for making the playoffs back in 2010, the Seattle Seahawks won the Western Division with a 7-9 record.
And they did win a playoff game, too.
Did they that year?
They did.
Yeah.
Richard, I think I heard you broach weather. Record high for Christmas Day.
Yeah, Burlington, record warm Christmas day. Warmest Christmas on record, 65 degrees. Actually,
Yeah,
you might
I thought
recall, I remember 5
We had
years ago.
66
5 years ago, we had an incredibly warm Christmas Eve. I think we hit 70 5 years ago, 2015, on Christmas Eve, which might have been the warmest December temp on
Wow.
record in Burlington.
I wouldn't doubt it. We were at 67 early Christmas morning
Yeah.
here on Elm Street. So it was, really, well, it's been an open winter, obviously. And,
That's the word, yeah.
You know, it's been warm for the most part. And, we've had some winds cool things off, but we've had very few really low temperatures, below zero. I'm sure some places in the county probably have experienced it a few times, but nothing in the city here, obviously.
Yeah, great walking weather. I knocked off 3 miles today on the rail trail in Sheldon.
Wow.
I've had my sneakers. I think I've worn my boots
Right.
once or twice. My sneakers have been on virtually every day, and it's almost January.
Probably pretty hard to come by a perch at dinner.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
Really,
that might be a little tough.
Yeah, I don't think there's been a lot of ice fishing, and of course Phil Necro, one of my favorite players, died,
Leonard,
and
Phil Necro, one of the class acts of all time,
Is that right?
won 318 games, lost 274. That's almost 600 decisions. And he played many years with a not very good Atlanta Braves ball club. Finished a career of a 3.35 ERA with a 1.27 whip. And one stat I want to speak of from 77, 78, and 79, the number of innings he pitched. 77, 330. 78, 334. And 79, 342. Now, keep in context,
unreal.
if you pitch 200 innings now, you're
Pretty good.
you're a stud.
You're a stud. Phil Necro, an incredible career. And again,
I think
not good teams.
I think 140. I think about 140 of those wins came from when he was age 40 and older.
Right, really.
Was he always a knuckleball pitcher?
Boy, I sure think so, but Leonard would know.
Pretty much. Yeah. His brother was good as well. His brother had another pitch in his repertoire, but
His brother.
that's a good question, David. I remember him when he was young, and I always kind of remember him for a knuckleball, but I don't think you come into the minor league throwing a knuckleball. He must have picked it up somewhere along the way in the minors. I don't know. Is there still a knuckleball pitcher in Major League Baseball?
Boy, of course, the Red Sox had that guy who they let run in that game in San Diego. Wasn't he a knuckleball? I forget his name even. Boy, that's a good question. Maybe not, huh?
Yeah. Now,
one doesn't really come to mind.
Phil's brother was Joe Necro that pitched with the Astros most of his career. But after Phil left Atlanta in 83, he went to the Yankees for 84, 85 and won 16 games both years with the Yankees.
You talked about the Braves. Another figure that really is pretty outstanding is Hank Aaron. I believe ended with 755 home runs. Mm-hmm. Somewhere, I'm looking it up. I think that's about right. Yeah. And you take away those 555 home runs, and he still had over 3,000 hits.
Oh yeah.
No, Hank Aaron's the real deal. I put him number 2 to Babe Ruth.
Is that right?
Yeah, Hank Aaron's, and he didn't have a lot of good teams either.
Did not.
Yeah.
Did not. And playing where he did was not a media market.
No.
Just very underrated his whole career.
No, Hank Aaron was a good player, and he never had 50 home runs either, did he?
Boy, don't think so.
He never had what again?
I don't think he ever had a year where he had 50.
No.
Don't think so.
But he had a lot of 40s.
Yep.
No, yeah, and he didn't strike out a lot.
No.
He didn't strike out a lot at all, and he was very unassuming, and he had some good. He had in the 50s, late 50s. He had some good hitters around him. Milwaukee had some good teams then.
Eddie Matthews, third base.
Oh, Joe Adcock.
Yeah.
I mean, they had some hitters. Wes Covington. they had a pretty good lineup there in the late 50s. 57, they won it. 58, they lost it to the Yankees. They beat them in 57, 58, 59, 60, 61. They had pretty good teams right there, but they really fell off, precipitously after they moved out of Milwaukee and went to Atlanta in 65. I mean, by then they were, they didn't have much going for them at the time, But anyway, there isn't, college football. I think Alabama is the cream of the crop. Now that I've seen all the teams.
I'd say Clemson, if you're right, Leonard, Clemson's not far behind, man. With my man
Alabama's
Trevor.
1 and Clemson is 1A.
Yeah, I think Clemson's very close.
Yeah, well, I hope they get to play because they usually put on quite a show when they do.
Yeah, pretty likely. Yeah, we'll know soon. Yeah, the doubleheader Saturday. I'm psyched. I'm definitely psyched.
Yeah.
Bama, Notre Dame, 4:00. Clemson, Ohio State, 8:00.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. Did I say Saturday? I should say Friday, New Year's Day, right?
New Year's Day.
Friday. My mistake.
Well,
Friday.
Clemson and Ohio State, there's a lot of bad blood.
Well, of course, Dabo having
Said that
having Ohio
Clemson,
State 11th or something.
Yeah.
I think Dabo doesn't lose sleep over that stuff. I think he's got a ton of faith in his team.
Yeah,
and his quarterback probably in particular.
I'll tell you what.
The Las Vegas in November, reading that roughly they made $58 million, which is the all-time record for them in sports. And but worldwide, the biggest betting event apparently
Soccer
ever was the Donald Trump Biden presidential race because it was, and most of the betting was not in the United States. It was overseas, and they had the line changed like around. It was a moving line, and around 10:30 Eastern time, you had to lay 770 to win 100 if you took Trump because he was ahead at that time, and a lot of the people obviously weren't aware of mail-in balloting, the fact they hadn't been counted yet, and they got killed. A lot of them laid those big money lines, and they said not even 2 Super Bowls together would match the betting that went down on that election.
Leonard,
I thought that was
the New York Giants this Sunday. I did read an article in the Post today. Daniel Jones admitting that he can't play out of the pocket. He just doesn't have any movement right now.
Oh, did he say that?
Yeah.
Will he play Sunday?
He'll play.
I certainly probably can't. I can't see him winning then. He's got to be able to run.
No, I can't see him winning that game either.
No.
And I could see the Eagles beating Washington.
Alex
Because
Smith today
we
did
don't know
not
if
practice.
Smith is going to play.
He sounds
Smith
shaky.
was on the sideline just throwing the ball.
I don't think he can.
He's got a bad calf injury. He's 37 years old?
If I were him, I'd get out while the getting's good
Yeah.
before he hurts himself.
Yeah.
Because he's done.
But, Jones might be rope-a-doping Dallas. He might have a couple of runs in him.
Well, speaking of runs, they have to get that running game back in order. They've kind of abandoned that, and obviously they need to score first. But there's been a lot of regression the last few weeks, and like you said,
Well, that has a lot to do with playing pretty good teams, too.
Well, I know, but to be a good team, you have to beat good teams. They've beaten one team with a winning record this year, Seattle. In the last 3 years total, they've had 3 wins against a winning record.
But if you're talking,
I don't know what happened to Seattle. That Sunday.
I'll tell you what, they could make it to the Super Bowl, and the first thing they should say, we'd like to thank the New York Giants for putting a flame underneath our butts. They've been playing great ever since the Giant game.
well, if you think your Giants are regressing, what about my Patriots? Sorry, Lenny, and I beat up on my guy, Mr. Belichick, his stubbornness is just, I could kill this guy.
Well, they finally put Stedman in, or
Stidham got a little playing time. How about letting him play the whole? The game was over by the time he got in. I mean, Cam Newton, does he need to know anything more? Cam had another good game, 30-something yards, the fewest yards by a Patriots starting quarterback in 30 years or something.
Yeah, he went 5 for 10 for 34.
What more does he need to know about Cam? And I like Cam, decent guy, but give me a friggin' break.
I love it. Belichick, I thought, showed the most effort when he threw the phone against the
Really?
yeah.
That was the most
I
effort.
thought that was great.
Yep.
That was him at his best. And well, hey, he's had his day in the sun, or I should say days. You can't win all the time.
No, you're right,
And,
Leonard. You're right about that. But again, he's left like I said, drafting. We talk about it every week. His drafting's been pretty pathetic. It's a pretty thin team at this point.
Yeah, well, as I say, it's a little different than it is college ball. Like the Clemsons, the Alabamas, the Georgias, the Ohio State. They get the best players that want to go there. You don't have to draft them.
Yeah.
And if they get 10 of them, they get 12 of them. I mean, there's no limit. Alabama and Clemson are probably better than the Giants and the Jets.
Boy, you'd think those guys could maybe play some fairly even pro games against maybe a couple teams, maybe, huh?
Nighthawk and I have had that discussion before, and I've read about certain matchups, and they say the worst pro team would still beat the best college team.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, the guy, is it Albert Breer on, he said last night, or DJ, whatever, said, in all seriousness, and I agreed with them, Alabama's wide receiving core is better than the New England Patriots.
No, God, I would
and
say.
when you keep in mind that Jason Waddle will be picked in the top dozen, Devontae Smith could be picked 8th by the Giants, and I think they have one other wide receiver.
No, I think the Patriots would kill for some, Alabama. Maybe, I bet you could name 10 colleges.
I think between Alabama and Clemson, they've got more first-round picks than I think there was something last year that they had more first-round picks than the Giants did on their roster or something. Because you look at Alabama, they usually have every year they have 5 or 6 guys get picked in the first round. These guys, these are pro programs. So you don't go to Alabama because you love the education in Alabama. You go to Alabama because you want to be a professional football player.
Now, Leonard, getting back to an old discussion we've had in the past when Saquon Barkley was picked 2nd overall. For the record, this year, there'll be no running back selected in the first round. And that's not saying there's not good running backs in college. It just shows you that there are a dime a dozen running backs. You can get them in the second round.
They are. And they have a lifespan of 5 or 6 years.
Absolutely, if they're good.
In hindsight, taking Barkley first was a mistake in that situation. And there was a running back about 8-9 years ago. Remember, he had a great preseason. I had him going to the Hall of Fame. Right?
Yes.
Before he even played.
Yeah, I
an NFL
remember
game.
that.
Well, I forget his name.
Boy, we did take a running back maybe 8 years ago by the name of David Wilson out of Illinois.
I don't know who it was, but he was all world in preseason.
I think
I said, well, this guy's going right to Canton. You know?
And he had a neck injury, and that was it. He was done.
I think that was David Wilson. His first carry went for 80 yards in preseason for a touchdown.
Yeah, it was that was interesting for sure. My Chicago Blackhawks are hurting. Kirby Doc, their high draft pick, is out for 4 months with a fractured wrist, and Jonathan Tays is out for unexplainable reasons. They say he feels lethargic, no energy, and they didn't say it was COVID. So I don't know what's going on with him. And we have.
And Zdeno, we had big news for the Bruins,
Churro
right?
got traded.
And we have a new restaurant operator up at Champlain Country Club.
Oh, yeah?
And Melissa Bernor Fournier, she's the deli manager at the Enosburg Lockers, and she has her own catering company, and she's the new, going to be the new operator.
That's funny you mentioned Enosburg Lockers, Leonard. My kid loves their, what did he get, a Reuben the other day? Today was their last day, either today or tomorrow is the last day their deli's open. They're bagging their deli, still keeping the meat market.
I can understand that. They have good quality stuff there.
Good place.
It's hard to put, Enosburg Meat Market, I think it's called, not the Lockers anymore. But,
right, not the Lockers anymore.
Yeah, I've heard good things about their deli, and so anyway, and I got a trivia question to leave you. I've been watching a lot of C-SPAN because I'm into this Senate thing right now with the bills that are being considered, and quite frankly, I'd rather watch live drama than taped television, and so it was I think Senator Murphy from Connecticut, a Democrat, yesterday put up a bit of a riddle for one of his Republican counterparts to, and I'm not sure what I'm listening to here. Alexa, for some reason I've excited Alexa. She's talking to me here. I might have said her name. I don't know. I apologize for that. But here's the riddle. The federal minimum wage is $7.25. Most states have higher minimum wages, but the federal minimum wage is $7.25. And there are still some states in the South that have that minimum wage. I don't know. You can't get anybody to work for you.
Hey, guess what? That minimum wage, I think, is a little higher than New Hampshire's, for the record. I think New Hampshire might actually be just under that.
Anyway, I didn't think you could go lower than the federal minimum wage. But anyway, $7.25. Now, how if a person worked 40 years? No, I'm sorry. If a person worked 40 hours a week at federal minimum wage levels, how many? And he wouldn't be able to spend anything. How many years would it take him, or I should say, how many weeks? How many? No, I'm sorry. It's years. It's years. It was a mind-boggling figure. It was years. Let me rephrase that. If the federal minimum wage is $7.25, if someone works at that wage for 40 hours a week,
$290.
How many years would he have to work to amass $1 billion?
$1 billion?
$1 billion?
Yeah.
15.
Oh, God.
Well, 15,000.
And the answer is 75,000 years.
God, I would have probably guessed more than that.
Yeah.
Well,
That
that's
goes
kind of
back to Neanderthal.
Sounds like
kind of a dumb
right
thing because nobody gets minimum wage for very long anyway.
Boy, Vermont.
No, but he was just trying, to draw a disparity
Between
the billionaires and those who, the bottom feeders, so to speak. But I just thought that's an astronomical number. He did say if he worked at his salary, he was the United States Senator. If he used his salary, he'd have to work 7,500 years.
But $1 billion, why? That sounds like just a weird.
Oh, because
stat.
they
Who
probably
cares
were talking about their
$1 billion?
budget and how much money. And
Well, he said you couldn't spend any. This is just total accumulated earnings. And but I thought that was interesting, a little factoid. And so again, a friend of mine who probably none of you folks knew, maybe Richard in his travels to Montgomery, Henry Rouse.
I knew Henry very well.
99.
Dave's ahead of me.
Him?
Yeah, I didn't know.
He and my dad were very good friends.
Huh.
Oh, really?
Yes,
So
he was in my dad's office a lot. They were both on the hospital board at the same time.
Oh, good, because he bought that nice farm out there in Montgomery on Route 108, and I used to stop and talk with him a lot. And the reason I used to stop and talk with your father a lot too in his office, but his brother was my little league coach in Richford, and he died at the age of 99 after a brief illness, and he just had a great career. He was an FBI agent, and then he worked in the FBI office in Washington, D.C., and he had just an outstanding military career. I mean, he was on the Yorktown, which was sunk at the Midway, and then he was at Iwo, 2 invasions of the Philippines, invasion of North Africa, invasion of Italy, and Iwo Jima, I think I said that. So he lived a full life. Interesting guy.
You know, he always looked about 20 years younger than what he was.
Oh, yeah. Well, he lived to be 99, and he died suddenly. So he wasn't sick very long.
A very nice man.
Yeah, very much so. And, well, anyway, gentlemen, Happy New Year. And
Thanks, Leonard.
Happy New Year to you too, Leonard.
Thanks,
talk to
Len.
you next year.
Okay.
Be healthy.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.
So, David, I was mentioning the Jets. It showed me a lot that the team went out and played. They're the second pick overall. They won't drop even with a victory over New England.
I was going to say, Hawk, they're very likely to win another game. I'd say I would certainly favor them over New England.
New England's actually favored
No, that means a lot.
by 3 points.
I don't know why. Jets strike me as a better team right
So,
now.
I mean,
bet Jets win that game.
I've seen most every Patriot game. I can speak all day about the Patriots. I
sad
haven't watched
team.
one Jet game, so I'll be watching with interest.
I can't
So,
even watch. I can't even
The
watch
Jets
them.
have played pretty well, and they should have won a game against the Raiders.
Oh, yeah, I don't remember.
No,
That
the
was,
with the last second.
Yeah,
right,
their
terrible
defensive
loss.
coach called a
Right, the
yeah.
bomb. Right, last
cover
play of the
zero,
He
meaning
blitzed.
no secondary.
He blitzed on the final
Yeah.
play.
Right.
One-on-one coverage with a rookie corner.
Right, and they should have won that game too.
So
but I bet they beat the
if Darnold plays good again, and again, I'm not going to sit here pretend I know the Jets are Sam Darnold, but the Jets could be in great position by trading out that second overall pick because Zach Wilson
Just to get a bunch of bodies.
displaced Justin Fields for the second pick overall.
Just to get a bunch of good draft picks.
They
and
could
stuff.
there's
get
a lot of-
3 number ones for that second pick
Wow,
overall,
that's-
and good for the Jets.
Right, that's what seems like. That's what they should certainly do too.
Yeah. Now, New England. I watched that game the other night as
Boy,
well.
you're braver. I couldn't even
Couldn't watch it. They just
I
stink.
couldn't. I flipped over to Shark Tank at
Yeah.
some point,
I just like the good feel for New England.
and their
Yeah.
defense has gotten so. How soft can the secondary be?
But Stidham, and again, the word out there is Belichick sees him every day, so he knows that he's probably not good enough to play. However,
Can't give him one couple
one
of games.
start this weekend, give him first reps all week, and let him go play against the Jets.
I mean, they drafted the guy.
I think Belichick is so stubborn that he would bring Newton back next year.
I wouldn't totally rule that out.
He's,
And there's
he's
some-
not that.
There's some
stuff.
some Pats beat people who think that's absolutely possible.
He's not that.
He says, like I said before, and Hawk
He
just said, he's so
knows-
friggin' stubborn.
If the Patriots were just a little off, he knows that it's not just Cam Newton. Cam really stinks.
No,
don't
it's
get me
not
wrong.
just Cam Newton, but but what do you
he
get? You get nothing
understands.
out of him.
He knows what he's got there, and every once in a while he lets his guard down, but not very often. But he's not going to show it. He's not going to.
What's he proving by not giving Stidham a start or two?
Well, Stidham's not any good, and Stidham.
Oh, okay. Well, you might want to. Gee, he's had such a long playing career.
I can foresee the Patriots just clearing the cupboard of quarterbacks,
Yeah.
getting rid of Stidham, Hoyer, and Newton. They will be available quarterbacks if the Patriots want to pay. Now, they will have a ton of cap money to spend this spring.
They got money.
They
Carson Wentz, Yes.
They are
that's a
gonna-
big risk. Now,
How
I will
much-
sit
How
here.
much would Carson Wentz cost you, though? 20,
30
30-something million a
They're
year.
not going to, I can't
No,
believe that.
but I will sit here.
Jimmy G, I would think.
Right, and not
they'd
give
have
a Nighthawk
interest in.
guarantee, but if you're asking me, Jimmy G. Garoppolo will be the starting quarterback for the Patriots next year.
I'd say that's
And
a good
Isn't it
guess.
really funny, Duke, when the Patriots a few years ago traded Jimmy G to the 49ers, and they were lambasted for only getting a second-round pick for him.
No.
And now you look at it as, boy, what a steal the Patriots had on that.
Right. What did I say? Hey, guys, you can't keep the guy. You're not going to pay Jimmy G $20 million
Yeah.
to be Brady's backup. You're
They
obviously
might get a quarterback. There's probably some quarterback. Who had Patrick Mahomes? Were we even talking about Patrick Mahomes?
No, not
I
even
don't-
once.
I don't think
Kyler
so.
Murray?
Now,
Yeah, I think Murray got some attention.
Yeah, but nobody thought he was going to be number one pick.
but the thing about the Patriots, or I should say Belichick, he's so old. Like a guy like Trey Lance out of North Dakota State might be available where the Patriots are picking. But Belichick's is what, 67, 8?
That's about right.
He's not going to want
70.
to.
Belichick, a Hingham resident, of course.
He's not going to want to wait around, develop. Again, there's quarterbacks available. Matt Ryan from Atlanta, who played at
Boston College boy.
Atlanta right now sits at the 4th position, and they could end up taking Justin Fields out of Ohio State.
Well, the other thing that the Patriots have lost, and it's hard to minimize it, there's a lot of his coaches that are coaching somewhere else now, and really good coaches. Flores,
Yeah.
of course, Patricia's gone.
Patricia's gone.
He didn't last. Most of his disciples don't do very well.
Let me tell you, David.
Not to
if-
mention Mike Vrabel, one of my favorite Patriot players,
Oh,
doing
yeah,
a
there's-
fine job with Tennessee.
If Patrick Graham, the defensive head coach of the Giants, leaves for a head coaching position, it would not surprise me if Matt Patricia takes over the Giants defense.
Well, and
Defense.
the other guy, we were talking about that today. Graham's like the new hot
Yep.
pick. But the guy that really should get a head coaching job, I think he's done a fantastic job, is that Bieniemy for Kansas City's offense. And there the next 2-3 coaches they pick are going to be black guys.
Yep.
There's nobody picking a white guy except for maybe Urban Meyer.
Let's see. Josh McDaniel, rumors are he's being an offensive genius. Justin Hebert from the Chargers has had an unbelievable season. McDaniel will go to the Chargers. A guy the Giants looked at last year that was high on their list, Don Wink Martindale, the defensive coordinator of the Ravens,
Right.
could end up with the Jets.
Is he a black guy too? I
He's
think?
white.
White guy?
Yeah.
Because I'll bet you with the NFL, the way with their woke culture,
Yeah.
that, and you know what? I think a couple of these guys deserve it. Because I'll tell you what, that Flores, you've heard it here from last year. That guy is a coach. Because you take the Miami Dolphins last year before the season started, they sold or got rid of every good player they had, and they had nothing but guys walk-ons and scabs, and they ended up winning 5 games. And look at what they're doing this year.
Yeah.
including a huge win over the Patriots.
Did you
at the
watch that?
end of the season last year?
Did you see that play?
A huge loss for the
Fitzmagic?
Patriots.
Never. His head was there when he threw the ball.
Right, unreal.
And let me say this, and they talked about this last night in the Boston
Yeah,
Sports
that
Show.
was a great play.
I'm not a Tua fan at all. Okay, I think he'll be an average quarterback. He got pulled from the game, and Ryan Fitzpatrick did his magic again. Could be a possible quarterback for the Patriots. He's still got tread on the tires.
Harvard boy, right?
Yep. They asked, and the Patriots right now are picking, let me be exact here, 14th. So the question was posed, if Miami called the Patriots and said, we'll trade you Tua for your 14th overall pick, Tua man, every guy in the panel said, no, thank you.
They said no.
Yeah.
Well, I'd be tempted to do that in a second.
Well, I think Tua. Hey, you got to remember, Tua had a bad injury.
Yeah, I wouldn't sell Tua
Tua had
short
hip
right
surgery.
now.
That's not minor.
Well, let me ask you this, David. if they
Well,
got a
I'd
big
I'd
game
do that
this
in the
weekend.
second, Hawk.
If they lose that game, they could be out of the playoffs. And
Oh, Miami?
yeah,
Yeah, Miami's no.
Aren't they?
no,
Aren't they?
They're no
shooing or-
lock.
they're not a shoo-in.
No.
They're playing at Buffalo, Orchard Park, I think.
Yeah,
exactly.
but Buffalo's in.
Buffalo's in. I don't know if
Yeah.
they're going to sit
Buffalo
anybody.
might be the
but
best team in the NFL
Right now, Miami is getting 1.5 in the game. They're in no position, right? It's not guaranteed with a loss. They're in.
No
Well,
guarantee.
I would play Fitzpatrick, but Flory said we're
so-
going with
I'll
Tua.
tell you what.
So would
Now,
I.
how much rope he's going to have?
So
I'll
would
tell
I.
you what. You know what this reminds me of, and we're old enough to remember.
Your Giants.
No, this reminds me of the Raiders back around 1970 when they had Darryl LaMonica and George Blanda. And Blanda would come in every game, and wasn't he the MVP of the league that
I
year?
think he might if he was 43 years old.
And besides,
Also, was their place kicker too, right?
He
Or-
was, yep.
but he would come in the game, and I think that's the way it is with Fitzmagic, because I think what happens when you play Fitzpatrick the whole year, he plays so hard, he really gets shellacked. And the last few years, he's had a lot of injuries, but he doesn't have enough juice to play a whole season. But he can come in,
Yeah.
and if as long as Tua doesn't screw up too bad, I think Tua's going to play. And Tua was number one quarterback in the country for 2 or 3 years in college.
Yep.
Played for a pro system in Alabama.
He supplanted Jalen Hurts at
Yeah.
Alabama, where Hurts transferred
got a call.
out. Oh, we have a call. Good evening. You're on the Best Damn Sports Show in Franklin County. Hello.
Hello, how we doing, guys?
How you doing? Good.
Happy New Year.
Yeah, happy New Year's to you guys too. Great show as usual. I just tuned in, and you're talking football. Love football. I think, my opinion only, as far as the Patriots, I think they're going to go after a young quarterback. If they were a player or two away, I think they would grab a veteran. But you can rebuild a team in a hurry these days, and I think you're going to see a lot of different players on the Patriots next year. Duke, you could attest for this. You had a great 20-year run. I mean, I would love to have a 5-year run with my football team.
Sure. No,
But,
I don't mean to minimize that. Believe me, I've been so lucky. Yeah, I hear you.
And,
really
and
should
you know,
have
you've had the Red Sox, you've had the Bruins.
Not to
and-
mention the Blue Devils. I've been absurdly lucky
Yeah.
in my life.
So you're certainly sitting in a good sporting seat, But I just think they're going to strip that team down. Edelman's going to be gone too, I believe I heard.
Could-
and they're
could
going to maybe strip it down and rebuild it. And, when you replace quite a few players, it's nice to start with a young quarterback, put them in your system, and build your quarterback. You're going to see a lot of movement, too. There's a few teams that feel they're one quarterback away from being good. There'll be a lot of shuffling. Another guy, he's a defensive coordinator for the 49ers. He'll have himself a head coaching job, too, this year. He's done a fine job with that team.
He's Lebanese,
it wasn't so much their defense this year. The 49ers, it was, the offense kind of lacking. A lot of their offensive players were out. So he'll be gone, too. The thing, over the last 3 or 4 years, the Rams have rebuilt their coaching staff 2 or 3 times. When you win a couple years in a row, McVay, our coach, anybody he had a cup of coffee with are gone. So, it gets kind of hard, getting a new quarterback coach, getting a new defensive coach, special team coach. You got to kind of reinvent your team. And also, you got to, everybody kind of thinks Kansas City's in this year. I'll tell you what, I watched the Bills the other night.
Yeah.
And Kansas City better be playing their A game. And the Ravens have quietly won, I believe, 4 games in a row. So there's some good teams over there. The AFC is a powerhouse compared to the NFC.
Yeah. Caller, I will echo what you said about Baltimore. And the old thing I like is not how well you play in September. It's, what are you doing today as you're entering the playoffs? And the Ravens are as good a team as any right now.
But didn't I hear talk here a couple of weeks ago? Weren't you just saying Lamar Jackson is just not a good enough passer? A guy looks pretty freaking good to me.
I'll fall on my sword on that.
Didn't I hear that
agree
2
with you
weeks
guys.
ago?
Yep.
And you know what?
I didn't buy
Well,
that.
the Ravens the other day had 3 rushers over 75 yards.
Hey, there's a formula for winning: run the ball, stop the run, and the Ravens are the best at that.
Yep.
And so,
Now,
team.
caller,
Good-
aren't your
good team.
Rams in jeopardy of not making the playoffs?
Yes, they are. They have to win this week, and the Bears have to lose
Wow.
against Green Bay.
That's
Yeah,
likely,
that's not going to
probably.
happen. Now, your quarterback Goff is out too, isn't he?
Yeah, he's out with a broken thumb.
Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, and you're playing Arizona, and Arizona needs the win to have a chance to get in the playoffs. So
That's a-
that'll
Yeah,
be
we beat them 3 weeks ago. We beat them pretty badly.
Yeah.
But, we got a Wolford, our backup quarterback, coming in. And, I love Goff. He's our quarterback, such a gentleman, such a soft-spoken guy, a real nice guy. But, boy, he has been struggling terrible. He signed a big contract 2 years ago, like $32 million a year,
Yeah.
and we're kind of stuck with that contract. But goodness, he has not been playing well at all.
Well, unfortunately,
so I'm
Goff got the Rams into the Super Bowl, and you had a hot young stud that you wanted to get signed, and he's never really progressed. And of course, that's what happened to Carson Wentz. I already had Carson Wentz in the Hall of Fame.
same thing as Flacco.
Joe Flacco won the Super Bowl with the Ravens.
Big
and
contract.
Huge contract, and Flacco was never better than an average quarterback.
But Carson, are you just saying forget Carson Wentz?
I like his physique. I think if he ends up with the Niners, they could turn him around.
Yeah, I wouldn't
but,
throw the towel
a lot
in
of
there.
these quarterbacks, all they need is a different system,
Yep.
a different team. Look at the Tannehill. He left Miami as a nothing, and the guy is a great quarterback. Now with Tennessee.
Yeah.
It's the system you're in. Some of them fit the quarterbacks, and others they don't fit into it. But they did a great job with a lot of quarterbacks just moving them.
Didn't
But
the Eagles-
you get like Wentz's contract or Goff's contract. There's not a lot of takers out there.
Yeah. No, that's right.
I was going to say the Eagles. The other thing that happens too is the Eagles lost their offensive coordinator from a couple of years ago, and they haven't been the same. Their offense hasn't had the same. But they were talking same thing with the Giants. They're saying that maybe Garrett's system isn't good unless you've got really good players, which the Giants don't have. Some guys can take hamburger and make it taste like steak. Anybody can coach thoroughbreds, but when you can take a mutt and make him look like a thoroughbred, that's different. And that's really the sign of coaching. And Belichick can take a mutt and make him look like a thoroughbred.
Yeah, he's done that pretty well.
He's
Yeah, absolutely. But you're going to see some, like I said, some swapping around here this year. Wentz, I still like him. What happens to these teams that go to the Super Bowl? All of a sudden, the value of all your players go up. They become free agents, and you can't afford to pay them. Most probably 3/4 of them, they're more highly valued than they're actually worth. Yeah. But since they're a playoff team, the value is there, and you got a quick rebuilding job to do. You look at the Eagles. I mean, they probably have 5 or 6 people left from their Super Bowl team.
No, it doesn't take long for a team to go down in the dumps.
No.
And like you said earlier, you can kind of rebuild a team in a couple years in the NFL. Of course, the key to that is you have to have a good quarterback. But, don't give up the ship all that quickly.
Well, the other thing too, this year, there was no preseason, no early OTAs or whatever the hell they call them. These guys have had to coach on the fly. So it'd be interesting to see what teams like the Giants do when they get these guys for a whole season. Same with the Patriots. The Patriots didn't get anything. Usually Belichick has those guys coached up pretty well. So I don't know.
Caller.
Yeah, it's a tough division there now with the Patriots, the Dolphins, the Bills. It used to be just the Patriots and, 6 easy wins in that division, but that's a beefy division now. It should be very competitive next year.
And
that Allen for Buffalo, God, I love that guy. He looks like a 16-year-old kid trying to grow a mustache, but what an arm on him. They were always noted for their defense, and they've balanced it out this year with their offense, and their offense is progressively getting better. Now, Diggs they got from Minnesota, I believe. Oh, is that guy good?
Yeah,
Hey, some people think they're the best team in the NFL. I'm not sure they're wrong. Seems like a very good team.
Yeah.
Like I said, and I'm guilty too of saying this team's the greatest. Every week I seem to have a new best team in football. The Kansas City, Buffalo, the way Baltimore is playing right now, I mean, there's some tough teams over there. As far as the NFC, I would certainly give Green Bay a nod, and you have, of course, New Orleans. Seattle's been playing well. But the AFC, again, like I said earlier, is a powerhouse.
Yeah, looks like it.
I'll tell you what, when you want to take a tip from old Dave, put your money on Kansas City. When they've been playing just good enough to win, remind me of the old Green Bay Packer teams and the Steeler teams. And you wait till the playoffs come.
Yeah.
They're loaded. They are so fast, that team.
Boy, they're just barely winning some of these games.
See, they're just playing good enough.
Yeah.
But
I'm just not sure you want to do that week after week after week.
Yeah, Buffalo is hungry. These guys are out there to win.
Yep. And I said before the season, I'm from Missouri. You're going to have to show me, are they a one-year flash?
Yeah.
And I am so impressed. And this Josh Allen is built like a tank, and he may have the strongest throwing arm.
They did make the playoffs last year for the
I
Reds.
think they did.
Yeah, it's their second straight
and
playoffs.
Stephon Diggs, who was a highly disgruntled player for the Vikings because he had Kirk Cousins as quarterback. He said, I never saw the ball. I think he's got 110 receptions right now, if not more. They've got a two-headed running back with Devin Singletary and Zach Moss. Cole Beasley is a Julian Edelman on that team.
Remember him when he was with Dallas?
Yeah, I sure do. Yep.
I got a little
Cole Beasley, and that's exactly, he's like a Cooper Kupp or a Edelman. The guy and when he gets the ball, the guy's good for another 15 yards, the run after the catch. No, they are loaded. It should be good.
Yeah.
They got a good coach. Do you know that their coach and Mike Tomlinson both went to the same school?
Oh, yeah.
William and Mary.
Oh, okay.
That football power.
Wow.
Football factory, William and Mary.
All right.
Thank you, caller.
Okay, and one last thing. I'm going to leave you with my World Series projection.
Okay.
It will be the San Diego Padres hosting the Chicago White Sox.
Oh, that'll be fun.
Those are trendy picks.
Wow.
Okay, good night,
Thank you,
guys.
caller.
Thanks.
Bye.
Happy New Year. Be healthy.
David, I want to lean towards the New York Giants. Haven't spoken too much about them tonight. Now, again, I think, talked a week or two ago where we lived on the island of delusion of grandeur after Seattle. And I got to admit, I drank the Kool-Aid myself.
But it was fun. Hey, you guys deserved a good couple of
It
weeks.
was fun for
You've
the
had
2 weeks, thinking they were
some
actually going to
tough
be good.
times for a lot of years.
I think we stepped back 1 year in development in the last month. Let me tell you where the Giants are at. They are 31st in points per game, averaging 17.1 points per game. In yards per game, 297. Only the Jets are lower. They are 30th in yards per play, 4.89. The Giants are tied with the Jets for last in touchdowns per game, 1.6. The Giants are 31st in the league in red zone scoring, 45%. The Giants are 31st in sacks per attempt, giving up a sack on 9.76% of passing plays. Giant quarterbacks have been sacked 48 times. Only the Eagles, with 62, have been sacked more. Giants have just 10 touchdown passes, 31st in the league at 0.7 touchdown passes per game. I would assume the Patriots would be the last one. The Giants are 28th in the league in third down efficiency at 37.7% and time of possession at 28.47. Giants are 27th in the league in explosive play rate at 8%. Only 7 teams have fewer than 5 40-plus yard passes that the Giants have completed this year. And the Giants have even been worse than those numbers in recent weeks. Over the last 3 games, since the Seattle game, Giants are averaging 8.7 points per game.
Awful.
Giants have not scored 20 points in any of their last 5 games, or averaging 12.4 points in that stretch. They have not scored more than 3 points in the first half since week 12, when they scored 10 against the lowly Cincinnati Bengals.
Yeah, that's pretty grim.
The Giants, and I'm not here to bash them. I watch every single play. They're not a good football team.
So you feel they definitely have regressed?
They've
last couple
regressed.
weeks?
Where I said on the show after the Seattle game,
After the Seattle game, we were on
drunk on the Kool-Aid. I said, Duke, they're going to win 10 games, make the playoffs on their own virtue. I think they've taken a step back. More than likely, they'll lose Sunday, be a 6-10 team.
Well,
so how much have we improved from last year? 2 victories. And I said earlier this year on the show, it's not really based on victory. I need to see progression on the team. Offensive line was horrible, came up, and now they're bad. Last week, 6 sacks. 2 weeks ago, they had 8 sacks. The receiving core has done nothing.
I think it's all. They're better. They're light years better than they were last year. At least they're competitive.
I'll tell you, David, half the Giant fan base wants Daniel Jones out of there. I'm still a believer of Daniel Jones.
I think it's about 50-50 or so.
Yeah, because I watch a lot of YouTube and I read a lot on the internet. And again, they're so hard to come by. You've got to give them every opportunity to succeed. I haven't bashed him at all. Next year, his 3rd year.
Yeah, he's got one more.
I will be critical of him.
If you look at the Giants, you look at the way the teams play them. You watch that Baltimore game. They had 9 people in the box the whole time. They were daring him to throw.
Yeah.
And they know the wide receivers aren't getting open.
Yeah.
So,
and he's sure not getting much time. It looks like he's under
really,
duress just about every play.
What's hurt the Giants more than anything, I think, since poor old Daniel Jones pulled that hamstring and can't run, that run-pass option thing was really coming around for them.
Yep.
And so he's limping around. I think we may have a chance against Cowboys just because it's a divisional game. And we owe the Cowboys. We should have beat them in Dallas, the game I saw. And
that's right, you were there.
And
what was the score? Do you remember, David?
It's 35-34 or something like that.
It was a tight game, yeah.
Yeah, it was. We should have beat them. Yeah. We had them.
Yeah. Now, the Cowboys have no defense, but they probably have the best backup quarterback in football with Andy Dalton, longtime veteran Bengal quarterback.
They got a good offense, and they got good wide receivers.
Very good receivers.
But Jones is starting Sunday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing that hurt the Giants too was the week before when Bradbury couldn't play. Mm-hmm. When you lose your best cornerback.
Yeah, he had COVID for a week.
And I was reading a thing where they were saying on their defense. They were reading the wrong gaps or something. Because they were playing a certain zone or something to keep Jackson from running, and They just weren't right.
Yeah.
And we'll see. We'll see. I have a lot of faith in our coach. Judge is a good coach, and I like the direction they're going in. You throw Saquon Barkley in there. You throw a whole
And Saquon's back next year,
Yeah.
presumably.
But David,
and
the offensive line is still not very
well,
good.
they
Shane Lemieux, who's taken over for Will Hernandez, is not an NFL. He'll probably start next year, but he's got a long ways to go.
they were saying today that they'll probably have to let Zeitler go.
Zeitler, their right guard,
He's a pretty good player.
Is a very above average, very good player, but he'll cost them over $10 million.
They're thinking they're going to put Will Hernandez
on
there and
yeah.
keep Lemieux. Plus, you know what? If you work these guys and you train them, an offensive line, they need to practice probably more than any other
I
part
agree.
of the team.
I agree.
And I think once they're showing signs of getting better.
Yeah.
Give Jones a decent wide receiver.
A lot of the mock drafts have Devontae Smith going to the Giants, which would be a good pick. However, on defense, we have no whatsoever edge rusher. So Greg Russo out of Miami, Kwity Paye out of Michigan would be two guys. So I'm kind of seesawing between, do I want a receiver?
And I don't know what plan Gettleman has for free agents. Maybe they go for the edge guy on the draft, and maybe they take because there's a lot of good receivers in free agency.
Yeah.
And
there's a ton of wide receivers in this year's draft, so you might want to wait till the second round.
So, and if they have Barkley, and Jones can run, it wouldn't be. It's not that much of a stretch to open that up, because if they had a guy, they really need a burner. They haven't had a Homer Jones kind of receiver in a long
And
time.
Darius Slayton, who we were all excited about as a rookie last year, the guy will have a drop every game, and whatever reason, he cannot create separation. And we don't have a number one. Now, Shepard is still playing great when he's healthy, which is rare, as a slot receiver.
We got good slot receivers. Ingram's an enigma.
Yes, that's a good word.
Good word.
Very good word.
And we need a Tyreek Hill, or who's the guy that
Allen Robinson from the Bears will be available as a free agent. But let me ask you quickly: the Giants gave Logan Ryan a 3-year, $31 million contract. We've got Tomlinson at the defensive tackle and Leonard Williams, both needing contracts this year. I'm not so sure that was. Ryan's a great player, had a great year, and he's actually the leader of that defense. Really smart guy. But I would save my money for the D line.
Well, they'll probably keep either Williamson or Tomlinson.
One or the other, absolutely.
Hawker, Daniel Jones's critics, is there talk of the critics? Would they like the Giants to draft or at least get another quarterback?
No.
What about his critics, though? I assume they would like another quarterback? Would they like the Giants to draft somebody?
Well, I'll tell you what. All you need to know about drafting a quarterback is head down to the nation's capital. And Dwayne Haskins originally, everybody thought the Giants were going to take Haskins. Haskins thought he was going
Probably
to the
not
Giants.
hearing that too much now.
His early life as a kid, he grew up in Jersey, then he moved down to the D.C. area. The reason why he was drafted by the Redskins and the whole coaching staff said, no, don't draft him. Daniel Snyder, the owner of this football team, kid played in high school with Dwayne Haskins, knew Haskins really well. I want him on my team. The guy turned out to be a bum, immature, did not work at his craft, which you have to do, and had an extremely low football IQ, okay? A recipe for disaster. Nobody picked him up on waivers.
So he was released. Nobody's
released. Now, word today is Carolina may be interested in him.
Well, wouldn't you think somebody's
They
going
had
to
Teddy Bridgewater at quarterback. Bridgewater could play next year, and Matt Rule, the head coach of Carolina, could work with Haskins. He might have some abilities, but he has to change, and I don't know if he can do this, his personality. Going out a couple days for a football game and checking out the ladies at the strip club. Okay, not only do you put yourself in danger, which is fine, but you've seen how many, like Cleveland, lost to the Jets this week because their top 4 receivers couldn't play because of COVID. So the Redskins are fighting for first place, currently sit in first place. You've got Haskins checking out the boobs, coming back from the strip club, no mask. He could have infected that whole team.
Yeah.
And they saw enough of him. And, who knows what happens during the course of the week, how much effort he puts.
I lost a lot of respect for him when they were having a game, and I think I mentioned this last week or 2 weeks ago.
When he was unhappy that he wasn't playing?
No, they had a game that they won last year, and it got time for the victory formation, and they couldn't find him. He was in the stands taking selfies.
Really?
So they had to find a backup quarterback.
Not a good look.
That's not a professional.
Now, David, and I don't follow college football. You guys more know about it than I. But Justin Fields, I've heard, has had an up and down year with the Buckeyes, and we'll see him Friday. And for guys like Fields, Mac Jones with Alabama.
The Florida quarterback, is that Trask?
Trask.
Playing tonight, in fact. That's not a bad game.
A lot of mock drafts have Kyle Trask
Florida and
going
Oklahoma
to the Patriots,
tonight.
Duke, in the second round.
Yeah.
Good. These playoff games are very important for the quarterbacks.
Yeah. That's not a bad game tonight. Florida, Oklahoma.
No,
Yeah.
I got to throw a little something out there. It just shows you how pampered and spoiled baseball players are. Gary Sanchez had a big article. It was in ESPN Deportes. He said he didn't know why he wasn't playing in the playoffs. The guy hit 148 during a regular season, and he's a lousy catcher. And you don't need to say, "Oh, I feel so disappointed they didn't pick me." That tells you everything. I wish they'd cut the guy.
Yeah, they really should trade him. So Trevor Bauer, not really sure what he was asking for. I read today he's looking for minimum $200 million on a 5-6-year contract. Okay, he had a Cy Young this year, but it's like you going out golfing with me. You get 4 pars in a row, and you said, "Boy, I'm great. I'm going home."
Yeah.
That's what the 60-game baseball schedule is. Trevor Bauer, let's look at his resume. 3.90 ERA with a 1.26. That's pretty much slightly above average pitcher, okay? If he went to the Nationals, he'd be the number 4 pitcher on the team. In this day and age with COVID/economics.
Boy, baseball, nothing. I heard Buster Olney today mention the, I think, National League Central Division teams. He mentioned like 5 or 6 teams, and the most any team has spent on anybody is like $750,000 or something. I mean,
Minimum
What
wage.
about the Padres picking up
Blake Snell
and Hugh Darvish?
Hugh Darvish,
Wow.
Yeah, they're in it to win it for sure. George Springer, the other big, he's looking for a similar $200 million 5-6-year contract.
And nobody's grabbed them.
They say the Mets may be the leading contender. The Nationals had a nice trade. Josh Bell from the Pirates gave up a couple minor league pitchers. One's a 19-year-old, so who knows? But Josh Bell, 2019, hit 37 home runs. With that being said, he may be, and probably is, the worst defensive first baseman in all of baseball.
The Yankees haven't done anything.
But the line on baseball, and again, Buster was saying, hey, with the season, I mean, who knows if it starts on time? Who knows if they're fans? Why do you think? Why do you think many of these teams are going to go out and start spending money?
I think the owners would be a lot happier if it was a shorter season, because every game every game they play with no fans is
Yeah.
more money they're losing.
Yeah.
No, if the owners had it their way, they'd want to start May 1st.
And this season is not. I mean, none of this is nailed down, right? Baseball is anything but nailed down, correct?
you're an idiot if you're going to sit there and predict what COVID's going to do over the next 4 months. You don't know.
Well, I think it'll be easier. They'll get all the players vaccinated, and so they'll be able to play. But who's gonna be able to watch them?
Warmer weather will help.
But you know what? You got to have fans in the seats. You can't. Baseball with no fans just stinks.
Yeah.
Football does too.
But you look at the Yankees and the Red Sox, two of the highest ticket prices all of baseball. Now, when I went to Pittsburgh 5-6 years ago, I had great seats for like $48.
Yeah.
Nicest ballpark, and I may go back there this year. They're playing the Nats in September.
Just drive, don't
Now-
fly, don't fly.
Now, I mentioned I went to Yankee Stadium a few years ago and paid $120 for a second level seat. I remember going to the Red Sox game
Last
with you
thing
the
I'd
last
ever
time
do.
we went. You bought a standing room. Good for you. You can stand. I bought a lower level, last row of the first section, and that cost me about $140 for that.
Red Sox tickets aren't cheap.
No, Red Sox and Yankees are the two. They need the
Well,
revenue.
those field side seats in Yankee Stadium are $1,500 a game.
That's
Who's
just
going to pay that
Yeah.
to watch the Yankees play Kansas City
That's insane.
Yeah. Yeah.
or Arizona or somebody? That's nuts.
Huck, we're going to mention some. We have maybe a quick word about Casey. God, we lost another great Celtic, Mr. Casey Jones.
No.
Can I read just a little of Bob Ryan? The
I
Globe's
didn't
so
know
lucky
Casey.
to have Bob Ryan, another Hingham resident, just to throw in stuff. But this was a lead story in the Sunday sports section by the great Bob Ryan. Jones was exactly what Celtics needed. The 1982-83 Celtics season did not end well. They were swept by the Milwaukee Bucks, and it was clear that the players who mattered were tired of Bill Fitch's abrasive style, Larry Bird being a conspicuous exception. Fitch was hot. What the Celtics needed next was cool, and the right man was waiting in the wings. If ever there was a polar opposite of Fitch in temperament and coaching style, it was Casey Jones. And just one more graph. If Fitch was a blazing inferno, Jones was a cozy, warm blanket. He didn't sweat the small stuff. I always felt that if you had handed every coach in the league a yellow legal pad and asked him to name as many players as he could in a minute or two, Casey would have finished last. It didn't matter. He knew his basketball all right, but he didn't flaunt his knowledge. He understood winning and winners. He had respect for the players and what they had done to get where they were. He was a completely decent human being, and as a result, the players would have walked over hot coals from here to the New York border to play for him.
How old? 88?
88.
Yeah.
Let me tell you something. I went to Casey Jones basketball school
Oh, really?
in 8th grade,
Really?
and it was over at Camp Polka Moonshine in Willsboro, New York.
Yeah, Coke, is that right?
And I'll give you a quick story. We got about 3 minutes.
6 minutes.
My mom had bought me a new pair of sneakers, PF Flyers.
Wow.
Funny how you remember that. And of course, the basketball, in those days, you'd have the clinics like in the morning and then in the afternoon, and then maybe have a game at night. And in the afternoon, they'd have some of the pros play, and some of the guys they had were Dick Barnett, Wayne Embry. These must have been all of Casey's buddies. So anyway, and I'm not saying I was any good, don't get me wrong, but I had blisters on. There's nothing worse than getting a new pair of sneakers, and I had blisters on both feet, and I couldn't run a lick. And we had a coach who was from Quebec, must have been a high school basketball coach there for our little team. Well, I didn't play much. And after the game, and this is no baloney, after the game, where the courts were down below, and then you walked up the path up to the cabins and where the rec hall was and all that. Casey Jones comes up to me, puts his arm around me, and goes, "Hey, kid, have you been playing much?" And I go, Casey, no, I haven't. He goes, "I'll take care of that." The next day, when we had the game, the coach says, "Hey, you play, we lose." But I never forgot that. Casey was the nicest man.
Yeah, sounded
what
like
a
a
gentleman.
great guy.
And
Yeah.
I really feel bad. I really like Casey.
Yeah, great guy.
Great Celtic.
Yeah.
And just a real decent man.
Yeah.
Hall of Famer, had his number 25 retired.
Oh yeah, we're talking what? I think 8 championships as a player, a couple as a coach, 2 championships with the San Francisco Dons. I think he was Russell's teammate for
Yep.
at least a year or two.
Had this.
Oh, and also Olympics. It's unbelievable, his hardware.
Had the Celtics had a little bit of better luck.
Well, of course, Len Bias
Len
comes
Bias.
instantly to mind, of course.
I think the Celtics could have squeezed out another championship out of that. bunch.
Lenny, I can just flash back. Being an ACC guy watching Maryland, I can go back on TV, obviously, picturing the Terps coming to Chapel Hill, again, against an always great North Carolina team. Not too many teams walked into Chapel Hill, and Lenny Bias and the Terps just killed him, I think.
Yep.
Talk about a great player.
And then a few years later, the Celtics' first-round pick out of Northeastern,
Oh, of course, Reggie Lewis, of course.
Reggie Lewis, in a
God, how
pickup
weird
game during
was
the
that?
summer, died of a heart attack on the court.
With
The,
a huge controversy with the doctors, whether he should have
Yeah.
been playing or not.
Well, the thing is with Bias, the Celtics were so fortunate because they were good. There's no way they should have got a pick in the second pick of the draft or first pick or whatever he
Right.
was. And that was such good maneuvering by Red
yeah,
Auerbach.
that's a good point. I forget how they
Yeah.
pulled that off.
They traded somebody to some,
Yeah,
and
but he was so good.
because what happened was those last 2-3 years, they rode McHale, Bird, Parrish,
Yeah.
Dennis Johnson, and Ainge. They rode them. They rode them till they died. They're like the horse in True Grit. I don't know if you saw the second version of True Grit with Jeff Bridges.
I love Jeff Bridges.
And he rode the horse and rode the horse and rode the horse till the horse died.
Yeah.
That's what the Celtics did
Yeah.
with McHale and Bird and Parrish. There was no tread left on those sneakers.
Yeah.
They were gone.
Yeah.
So, quickly, just want to say goodbye to Zdeno Chara.
Boy.
The Bruins once go younger.
Yeah.
You can't blame them. Chara had a Hall of Fame career. It's 43 years of age. So the Bruins said thanks, but no thanks. So Chara signed with the Capitals today
For nothing.
for nothing.
$750
$795.
with some incentives, I hope.
I didn't see any incentives, but I'll tell you, free agents in NHL aren't getting much money
But Hawk,
either.
for that little money, it wouldn't have been worth the Bruins to pay him
I
like
think the
$1 million
Bruins.
for another year.
I think he's lost too much.
Yeah.
Now,
But thanks, Zdeno. Great career.
Great
Thanks.
player. Great Bruin. He'll be
Good
in the
character.
rafters.
Yeah.
The Canadians signed a couple days ago former MVP, former Stanley Cup champion, tough guy Corey Perry.
Really?
Okay, for 1 year, $750,000.
Is that right? 750.
Yeah, last week we signed veteran Michael Frolik. Hockey starts in exactly 2 weeks from tonight.
Really?
The puck will drop.
Wow.
I am so excited for the Canadians, and it's my hope that we won't be facing the Bruins during the regular season, but I'm hoping the Bruins get out of the Eastern Division and meet up with the Canadians either in the semis or the finals, which would be unbelievable. Now, the Eastern Division we talked about last week, it's brutal. The North Division, Canadian Division, is the second hardest division.
Yeah.
But I'm so excited for hockey.
So 2 weeks, huh?
2 weeks from tonight,
That's right.
the puck will drop.
That's great.
So,
Hawk, just one thing, and you probably didn't think of it last week, but usually in late December, we just mention old friend Leg, as in our original guy on the show.
back in 2003,
Yeah,
March.
executive director of Northwest Access TV. Boy, that sounds a little early, but in any case, we lost him in December. But Leg, easy to think of you, buddy. We're carrying on, but easy to think of you. We miss you.
How many years ago was that?
I was thinking like about 10 or so.
I
2009, but
You
I
know-
was looking for his obit, which I thought
I
had,
think you're
couldn't
right,
find it.
because him and
2003 is way early.
he was same age as me. Difference between him and I, he was in good shape. His parents lived into their 90s.
Yes.
He's at home, Cambridge, and drops dead with his lady friend. and
Hey.
stands up, his eyes bugged out.
Enjoy
just
life.
keeled
Happy,
over
healthy
of a
New
heart
Year, you
attack.
guys.
So
Yeah.
that was it. So, I got to say goodbye. For
Happy
Duke,
New Year.
Super Dave, Richie Cunningham on the Nighthawk. We'll see you guys next week. Happy New Year.
See you next year.
Well,